Welcome! The last part of the Easter Q&A will deal with questions about the Byzantimp channel and the host. So, let us begin. Where do you find your sources for the videos? So, all my sources are listed in my video descriptions as of now. That was something I neglected to do during the early days of the channel. Now, if people are interested in learning more, just read the description, please. I have a strong preference for primary sources, if they are available. As for secondary ones, they may be found on all sorts of scholarly, article, and academic journal websites. All I can recommend is to look through footnotes of every book you read, make notes of interesting sources which catch your eye, and search them up. I suppose one advantage I do possess in source searching is that I am not monolingual. I can look beyond English translations and academia. And that's where a lot of hidden treasures come in. So that's another advice. Learn languages, people. What do you plan on doing after covering Trebizond and maybe Theodoro and the Crimean Goths and whatnot? I genuinely watch anything history related from you. Anything? Then feel blessed, for I shall release a History of Hip-Hop Summarized series. No, but in all seriousness. Yes, I answered this a bit already. In my latest videos, I alluded to my plans. In Trebizond series, most of you know already, the Roman Empire of Pontus has been too long ignored in academia and, of course, media. We have to rectify that. And you can expect a lot more of me yapping about the primary sources, material evidence, scholarly speculations, and literary depictions concerning the history of Trebizond, because I have to dig really deep to form a narrative of their history, which is so much less sourced than other periods of Eastern Roman history, like especially in contrast to the Paleologi, who yapped on my behest already, so I didn't have to yap too much besides the main narrative in their videos. So in short, Trebizond Summarized is to be released very soon, in a few weeks at most, and I've put more work into it than ever. What else? Yes, my series on Romanitas. This will be my next major historical focus after, I summarized Eastern Rome. Although it's more accurate to refer to it as a socio-cultural historical series, as we'll primarily be looking at how Romanness survived past the fall of the Roman Empire, and how each province differs. So we have, for example, the blended Germano-Latin cultures which now dominate Europe. But different things must be said for the Roman provinces of Anatolia and the Levant. We'll look at how and if the Romans and the Romanized locals resisted the new forces, for how long, and how did Roman culture permeate and influence that of the newcomers. So yeah, it's a large series, so I don't see it coming very soon, but it's coming. And I have a research assistant to help me as well, who I will soon introduce to you. In the meantime, while we're waiting, as you may have gotten in the gist of these Q&As, I have several series already planned, shorter ones diving into various aspects of medieval Roman civilization. We'll explore their clothing, food, etc. We'll investigate how distant peoples, like the medieval Chinese, thought about them. We'll also continue some series which I've already started, namely East Roman literature and historiography. We'll keep learning about the rich corpus of the medieval Greco-Roman literary tradition, which is, sadly, so ignored. And I also have some plans to revive the Theodora di Augusta animation. Well, I suppose it's just supposed to be a shitpost, but I see its potential to become a fun little pedagogical series for our young Romans. As we're diving into other historical topics besides Rome and the Roman states, well, that is something a lot of people have inquired before. I've got a request to do a bunch of different histories. Serbia, Spain, Holy German Empire, Ottoman Empire, China, just to name a few. And I'm quite happy that my style of historical narration is so appealing. And I would be happy to do them, it's just that I'm not as well read on the primary sources and the historiography concerning them as I have with the Romans and their region. So if we think realistically, I would most likely cover the stories of Armenia and Georgia, nations so similar to the Romans but also so fascinating in their own ways. Nations that have interacted with the Romans for more than a millennium. Another very possible historical series I may do, with the aid of my wonderful research assistant, who is more well-versed in this topic than me, is the history of Safavid Persia, as an homage both to the Khomeini, whom Shah Ismail is descended from, and to my most lovely friends from Iran. But yeah, we're looking way too far ahead for now. It all depends on how much of my planned Roman content I can go through first, and how well this channel does. But let me know your opinions. Considering your ability, editing, and everything else has greatly improved since starting a channel, will you ever consider doing Eastern Rome Summarized, Remastered in the future one day? I did voice my hopes about one day making this, but seeing all the other series I wish to work on at the moment, it's either not happening or sometime in the far, far future. I mean, from my answer just above, I think you've all heard how ambitious I sound, and I am self-aware enough to know that one should never reach too high. So I'll announce more concrete plans later, hopefully before the Marble Emperor wakes up. Do you plan on doing more videos like the one on the Dragon Slayer semi-Rome? Well, yes, and it's just part of my series analyzing Eastern Roman literature, and I love Eastern Roman literature. Obviously, I have more plans to present more works from the underrated medieval Roman authors, which so few of you know of. If you're asking about covering just more folk traditions and legends from Eastern Rome, yeah, I'd love to do that as well. Depends on how everything goes. On the topic of this video, I would recommend you to give it a watch because I think it was one of my better researched ones, one of my more proud projects. So if you like dragons, if you like fantasy, if you like Byzantine literature, highly recommend. How did you find Byzantine history? What book, figure, etc. introduced you to it? I couldn't say that one single book introduced me to them, since I read a lot of history when I was younger. But goddamn, the empire of the medieval Romans got me hooked by the way their local Greek culture blended in so perfectly with the wider Roman civilization, and how tenaciously the East Romans fought for their survival for 1,000 years after the fall of the West Roman Empire. These are fascinating stories, and also relatable experiences. So by God, I just kept reading and reading. And this was what drew me to Byzantium. Not because I belong to Byzantium, but because Byzantium is a beautiful story of unity and division, deriving from its Roman and classical roots, which saw the tolerant blending of cultures around the Mediterranean that created a universalist civilization. And that is something I understand and that I like. And that is probably the simplest way I could put it about how I found and really fell in love with Byzantine history, before I go on to yap another hour about this topic, because it's something that we can really expand on. I think that's the limit of all the questions that you have about this channel and about me. And I will like to conclude the Q&A series for now. I realized that had I not cut this Q&A into 5 parts already, plus another upcoming 6th part about Trebizond, which some of you have already submitted questions to, you can still do that, just a reminder. So I realized that if I didn't cut this Q&A, I would have probably, 2 hours of content? So, first we have to blame you for sending in a lot of questions, but more importantly, we also have to blame me for yapping this long about just 40 questions. So, we're in this boat together, but we all went through it. You stuck with me till the end, or at least I hope you did. So if you did, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And I'm really glad that you liked Eastern Rome Summarized as well, and all these series that I've been working on. It's just really nice to see people who like Byzantium and who like this amazing civilization. It's just really nice. Anyway, that's all from me for now. So next you should expect the series on Trebizond, and then we will move on to cooler things, which I have already alluded to in this video. Alright, so peace. And now that I consider the Q&A to be finished for now, I can regularly thank my patrons again. So here they are: Dragonlord, Rompea Game Projects, Cody Danroth, Tirapita Productions, Francis Morin. Thank you all for your support, and you're all awesome.